Good morning, Source students. It's another snow ice day. It's kind of a rainy, icy day. It's actually January 16th. I'm doing these videos for future snow days because I already put one out for today. But I know a couple have asked me about baking things on snow days. So here's a real quick and easy recipe. It's a very old-fashioned one. It's a peach Kougan, and Kougan is actually a German word meaning cake. This isn't a traditional cake like a cupcake that you would find. This is more of a fruit crumble dessert. So, are you ready? Here we go. We're going to start with 6 tablespoons of butter. So I've got my 6 tablespoons of butter, and I've softened them. The next thing I'm going to add is a half a cup of brown sugar that's been packed into the measuring cup very, very firmly, because you don't want to loose measure brown sugar. You won't get the right amount. So, half cup of brown sugar that's been firmly packed. And then the next thing that's going to go in is a cup of flour. And then the last thing is oats. You can use the old-fashioned or the quick cooking. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be Quakers. They can be whatever kind you have on hand. Just not the instant oatmeal that you get in the individual packets. That won't work. So I'm going to put a half a cup of oats into my bowl. And then just take a fork and get that all mixed up really good so it's nice and crumbly. Okay. Mixing it up, and I am using, this is called a pastry blender. It's got the wires going across, so it works much easier than a fork at breaking up that softened butter and getting things kind of crumbly. So yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm going to take half of this, just half of it, and press it into the bottom of an 8-inch square pan. So I suppose if you want to make a 13 by 9, just double everything that I've done so far. So press that in the bottom. I'm going to keep the rest because that's going to go on the crumble topping. So this recipe was one of my, I got from my grandmother. She made it most often with rhubarb, so you can use almost any fruit you want. I just happen to have some peaches in the freezer I want to use up. So I'm going to set this aside and start on the peaches. So I have a couple cups of peaches that are still just a little frosty, but I thawed them and I kept most of the juice with them because instead of using water, I like that peach juice. It adds a great flavor. I am going to be putting in about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. That'll help thicken it, make it a nice, thick, like a syrup or a broth that goes with it, you know, like you would on a pie. So 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And then the last thing I'm going to add is a half cup of just regular sugar. Okay? This is going to go on the stove, and I'm going to cook it until it gets that nice thick and the peaches are all thawed out, and it's going to smell so good. So just hang on. Okay, so I brought this to a boil, kind of over medium-low heat. You don't want it too high or you're going to scorch it. You can see how it's quite a bit thicker than that juice was. Okay, nice big chunks of peaches in there yet. I'm going to pour it all onto my crust in my 8 by 8 pan. There we go. Set that aside. And then I'm going to take the remaining crumbs that I had left, and I'm just going to cover the top of this with it. That's part of the best part of it. I like the fruit filling, but man, I love the flavor of this crumb topping. It is so good. All right. There. So this is going to go in the oven at 325 degrees for about 1 hour. I'm going to check it at 45 minutes to see how it's doing, but about an hour. I want the top to be kind of golden, and along the edges, I'm going to see that syrup kind of bubble up nice and thick. It's not going to be boiling like boiling water. It's going to be more of like a gel bubble on there. So that's what I'm watching for. 325, 45 minutes to an hour. We'll be back. Okay, I just pulled it out of the oven. You can see that it's kind of golden on top, and look at the bubbles and the real thick syrup on the side. So it is all done. Let's see if we can move you a little bit closer in to see it. So it is all done. I am going to put it aside to cool on a rack. However, when it comes time for serving it, I'll warm it back up again, because it is absolutely fantastic when you combine it with a little bit of vanilla ice cream, and the ice cream gets to melt on the top of it, or some whipped cream, heavy cream that you've whipped up and sweetened just slightly. Like I said before, this is an old-fashioned recipe. Most of the stuff is things that people would have around their home anyway. It can be made with any fruit that you make a pie with. So I've done it with rhubarb, I've done it with rhubarb and strawberry, I've used apple, I've used blueberry, I've used raspberry. If you don't have the fresh fruit to cook down with the sugar and the cornstarch, don't worry about that. If you've got canned fruit, that will work also. Just put it in. If you put 1 can in, you're going to have it on the thinner side. If you put 2, you're going to have a nice thick dessert. That's up to you and your preferences. So let me know if you give this a try. Send me a picture. Let's talk, okay? Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay warm. Bye.